Welcome back to another tutorial. So today we are making this beautiful gown with this stylish peplum. So I achieved this with about 3 yards of fabric. This is a crepe fabric, and if you are working with a small size you can need about 2 to 2.5, but this is for a plus size person. So the first thing I did is to remove my half cut. So the half length of this dress is 17.5 plus my allowance. So from there I measure to the full length of my dress. This is a 3/4 gown. So the first thing I did is to, from the waistline, I measure to the hip point, from there to my knee length and to the full length as I've said. So at this point I'm trying to mark my hip circumference divided by 4 plus 1 inch allowance. So I'm adding just 1 inch because the material is quite stretchy. So I wouldn't want too much allowance, and I'm not going to be adding lining to this. So on the waist I repeated the same thing, my hip waist circumference divided by 4 plus 1 inch allowance. So on the knee length I'm just going to be minusing whatever I have on my hip minus 1, then I'll place it on my knee length, then I'll connect the 3 dots together. So from that knee length, whatever I have there, I'll bring it all the way down to the hem of my gown. So, and that is that for the down part of this dress. So at this point, I'll cut it out. Don't forget to add your seam allowance. So I added about 1.5 seam allowance to my length. So I folded for both the front and the back, don't forget, and I left my zip allowance. So if you want, you might want to add that to yours, but for mine, I'm not going to be adding that. So moving ahead, I folded my fabric again into 4. I folded the first one, the front part, and I added zipper allowance for the back. So I have both the front and the back here. So the first thing I did is from the starting point, I draw out a line which is the guideline. From there, that will be my shoulder line. From there, I measure to my armhole, to my waist, and to my underbust and to my waist. So for my shoulder, I told you it's a plus size. I measure my shoulder divided by 2. So to know my armhole now, I'll use the bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inch seam allowance. That's the formula to know the armhole length to use. So I'll just divide what, after taking the shoulder slope, I'll take whatever I have left, divide it into 2, and I'll connect it from the bust circumference to the midpoint here and to the slope there. So the next thing I will do is to measure my bust circumference divided by 4 plus my allowance. I told you I will not be adding plenty allowance because the material is quite stretchy. So on the underbust I will do the same thing, and on the hip I will do the same thing. So for the upper part I will be adding a dart. So I added my dart allowance. So moving ahead, the next thing I will do is to measure the width of my neck. I have about 3.5 inches and the depth of about 3.5 as well. So guys, I will be cutting the back neckline first. Here I have about 1.5 for my back neckline and 3.5 inches for the front neck depth. So I'll cut on the back neckline first, then I'll cut the front neckline later. Don't forget to add your half-inch sewing allowance to your shoulder slope while cutting. So I'll cut the armhole out, then I'll cut the side. So I will then finish up the neckline. So for my zipper allowance, you might want to remove bulginess for that part. So it's going to be having a slit at the front. So I cut out about 4 inches length. So to work with the peplum now, so the peplum is only going to be at the front. It's only going to be at the front of my dress, and so that means I need half of my waist circumference. Half of my waist circumference divided by 2. That is what I fold here. So my waist circumference is 14 and half of it is 20. 20 divided by 2 is what I have here, and I will then determine the length of my peplum. So at this point I'm using 11 inches. By the time I've done turning and sewing, I'll be left with 10 inches allowance. 10 inches for the length of the peplum. Sorry. So I've got ahead to cut out the paper. So I'll be working with this paper to cut out my peplum. So as you can see, I have a crease line here. From that line, I'm going to be marking about 4 inches away to the left hand side, like so, to the right hand side, sorry. And at this left hand side, I'm going to be measuring 1 inch. So I'm going to connect the two dots together like so. So I'll measure 4 inches, about 5 inches, sorry, at this upper part here. I'll measure 5 inches away like so. Then I'll connect it back to meet the line I have here. So you just go ahead and cut it out. Then you cut the other way. So it's going to be 2 pieces, and one is going to overlap each other. Yes, they are going to overlap each other. So you are going to cut 2 of that. So the next thing I want to do after this is to fold for my. So I'll just photocopy what I have here, and and while cutting it, make sure you add about half an inch all around it. So I'll use this part to cut for the second side. So this is what I have after cutting it out. So at this point, I will be cutting facing for my dress. So I just folded my fabric into two. Then I'll cut this. Well, facing is like a lining, but it's going to be a shorter version of lining, just to turn the neckline. So, so I measure 4 inches all around to cut out the length of the facing I want. So I cut facing for both the front and the back of my dress. So if you don't want to use facing for yours, you can just use bias strip or you cut out the same fabric, just cut out a long strip of fabric. You might want to fold it in bias form, or you just buy a bias in the market, the same color, a matching color, and use it to pipe the neck. That is if you don't want the facing. So this is what my facing is looking like. So I'll go ahead and use this facing to turn the neck. So and this is how I'll be placing it, like this. So I'll make sure it matches up and I'll turn it on my sewing machine. Then I'll come back and show you guys. So I'll place it like so. Then I'll turn it like this. So I'll do that and I'll come back. So this is after sewing it. I notch it and turn it out like so. Use your sharp scissors to just bring out the sharp edge, the pointy part of the neck. So I also repeat the same thing for the back part. So I top stitch and I just give it a deep breath. So, so you might want to add your ending gum just to keep it in place so it will not be coming out when you wear it. So if you don't want to add anything, you can just sew it down to keep it in place. So this is what my peplum is looking like. I added interfacing to one part of it and I'll sew it like this. This is the part I'll be sewing. So I'll notch it, then I'll turn it out. So I'll place it like this. One will be overlapping one. Then so I'll finish up the upper part. I'll shape what I have there. That's if I'm putting that, I'll just go ahead and add my dart. So I've done that. If you don't want to add that to yours, it's very okay. So I measure my bust circumference, my underbust, and the waist circumference, and I'll connect it like this. I'll repeat the same thing to the back part. I'll draw out the zipper allowance, and that is it for my dress. See you in my next video. Bye.